Thank you for viewing this video brought to you by Prosecutors Center for Excellence in Equitas. On May 12, 2022, we hosted a recruitment and retention pop-up. The following presentation from that event features County Attorney of Yavapai, Arizona, Sheila Polk, who discusses how to adopt robust work-from-home policies and practices. A full biography, additional videos, and materials are available at pceinc.org under events. Thank you.
I am Sheila Polk. I'm the elected lead of the Yavapai County Attorney's Office. We are one of 15 counties here in Arizona. Our population is about 250,000 people, and my office has 112 employees. So going back to March of 2020, when COVID hit, I was able to get a state recovery fund grant and purchase for every single employee remote virtual desks. This allowed me to send everybody home. And so everybody began working remotely on a temporary basis back in March of 2020. We had to make a few exceptions, of course. A few folks came into the office to make sure that paper was moving, but for the most part, everybody was working at home. When we started coming out of COVID, and I realized we're not out of COVID yet, but as offices began reopening, I held a series of small group meetings with our employees, asking them what they thought the future should look like. And what I heard loud and clear from everybody was they really wanted the remote option to be made permanent. So that is what we did. Officially as of July 1 of 2021, I now have a permanent remote work option in place for all of the employees. Just as of last week, of 112 employees, 37% of let me back up. So we have three options. You can choose to work in the office 100%. You can choose to be at what we call a hybrid employee. So you work in the office 3 days or more, and you can work 2 at a remote work site, or you can be 100% remote. And the significance, the difference between being remote and being office or hybrid is remote workers do not have a designated workplace at the county attorney's office. The other two groups do. I let everybody choose, and they can move kind of in and out of these three categories, obviously with adequate notice because we have to make some internal changes. But as of last week, we have 17% of the employees who have chosen to work 100% in the office, 35% who have chosen to work 100% remotely, and then 48% who are hybrid. For the attorneys, I've got 41 attorneys, 6 work in the office full-time, 15 are hybrid, and then another 20 have chosen to work remotely 100% of the time. A few things to make it work. First of all, my office, we transitioned to electronic cases back in 2016. We have a database, an office software system called Prosecutors Center. That has made it possible to do what we're doing. The second thing is we have Microsoft, the Outlook suite. We have Microsoft Teams. I worked with our judges back when everybody was really working remotely. Our judges, they were able to adapt to Microsoft Teams appearances. So to this day, we still do a lot of virtual appearances for our cases, for both our civil and our criminal cases. Those two things have made it possible for us to continue on a permanent basis with this remote work status. I truly believe that this is a very, very significant recruitment and retention tool. I am at almost 100% in terms of filled positions. I say almost because a couple of weeks ago, we actually let go one employee from our victim services division. Had nothing to do with the remote work option. It was a performance issue. But I only have one vacancy right now. All my attorney positions are filled. All of our litigation specialists, all of our other victim advocates, we are filled. And in fact, last fall, my Board of Supervisors awarded my office with 3 additional prosecutors and 1 additional litigation specialist. So we have been able to fill all of those positions. Of our positions, we have 8 people who do not even live in Yavapai County. So they are residing in another location in the state of Arizona. By law, attorneys have to live in the state of Arizona. So 7 of the 41 attorneys do not reside in Yavapai County. Now, all of the employees who elect to work remotely, they have to agree to a number of things. I have them sign essentially, it's a memorandum of understanding. They acknowledge that working remotely is a privilege, not a right, that it can be revoked at any time. They acknowledge that this ability to work remotely is not a substitute for daycare or family care. And everybody who is new to the office does start in the office. And so every new employee will spend time in the office until such time as that new employee and his or her supervisor feel that they are ready to, if the employee wants to transition to a hybrid or a remote, then it's really by agreement of those two individuals. So yes, I think it is a very, very significant recruitment and retention tool. I'm hearing from my folks that they appreciate this opportunity, the flexibility that the remote work environment provides them. How do I ensure that the work of the office is getting done? Well, through Prosecutor by Carpel, we can see who is doing what. And so the acronym for Prosecutor by Carpel is PBK. We can run any number of reports. I personally can actually get on anybody, any of my employees. I can get on PBK. I can look at their to-do list. It's called the View. And so we can check up, we run reports, but frankly, if somebody isn't getting the job done, we're going to hear from other people as well. So I'm going to hear from the judges, I'm going to hear from our police officers, I'm going to hear from victims in the community. And we have had no drop off in productivity. When we first implemented the remote work option, I met with everyone in the office. They wanted it to happen. And so I really pushed back on them to say, then you show me the way. You show me how this can work. I trust all of you, and you are the ones to make it work. And so I really feel the office wants it. I know they love it. I did a survey not too long ago, got lots of positive feedback. They want that option to continue. So what changes have I made to make sure the distribution of work is fair and that remote employees understand what is expected of them? We really didn't make too many changes. We do have for our litigation specialists, we do have a requirement that even if they are remote, they have to work 1 day in the office each week. And that's because of PBK and our electronic case filing system. We start with taking paper and we put it into the system. So every piece of paper that comes in the door has to be scanned in. And so the supervisors for all of our different divisions, they will decide among themselves. They create that schedule for a litigation specialist to what day of the week he or she is going to work in the office. And we've been able I've relied heavily on supervisors to monitor workloads to make sure that workloads remain fair, whether you are remote, hybrid, or if you are in the office 100%. Early on, the issue we did have was that folks who had chosen to be in the office, walk-in traffic was falling on them, calls, etc. So we addressed that and we worked out a system to make sure that the people who are choosing to work in the office are not carrying an undue or an unfair burden. And then we did make some changes internally to the physical environment to support this remote work option. As I said earlier, employees who have chosen the remote option do not have a designated work spot, but we created what we call hot desks and hot offices, and we have a calendar system. So if an attorney who is working remotely is going to be in trial, wants to have an office to work out of for a few days, he or she can get on the calendar, reserve one of the hot offices. We repurposed a lot of the space that used to be dedicated workspace for the employees who are now remote. And so we created more conference rooms. What we found is for the folks who are working remotely, obviously they still need a place for meetings. They need to meet with police officers and witnesses and victims. And so we repurposed some of the offices into small conference rooms. And then one of the favorite things we did is we created what we call the lounge. And so we opened up a pretty large area in our office. We took out the cubicles, we took out the desks. It is an area for everyone to use however they want. We furnished it from Facebook Marketplace with very few dollars, but we have nice arrangements of chairs. We have a table, a coffee table. And the goal is you might just want to feel more social. So you might be a remote worker, but you want to come in for the day, but you don't want to go into an office. And so the goal is to allow those individuals, bring your laptop because everything is on your laptop. Just come and hang out in the lounge. We also hold a lot of meetings in the lounge now. My goal is to create a more open environment. And unless a meeting has to be behind closed doors, most of our meetings are now taking place in that lounge area. So, the last thing I will say, circling back to Kimberly's point about office values, and one of the challenges is when I don't see my employees as often as I used to, how do I still create that sense of community? How do I let them know that I care? And how do I share my office values with them? So we implemented for all of the new employees a new employee orientation. They have 2 months to complete a list of about 16 different items. Most of them are to conduct 20-minute interviews of other positions within the office. It's a way for them to get to know one another. But on every single new employee orientation, they have to interview the county attorney to learn about my shared office values. And then the second thing I started is I personally now do our in-office trainings. So twice a month, we do top quality office trainings. A group of my employees will be required to come personally for that training, and then the rest can be there virtually. But I will introduce our trainer. I stay for the training. We do other announcements at the same time. But that's another way for me to stay connected, for my employees to stay connected with each other, and really to address probably one of the biggest issues that you're all thinking with the remote work option is, how do we do that spontaneous collaboration? And how do we make sure that we build positive relationships among our employees?